The Wasteland. T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland is a key literary achievement of the early 20th century. The Norton introduction to the poem is helpful in identifying thematic reasons for the poem's importance, particularly the quest for meaning and rejuvenation following the devastation of World War I. The poem includes many images suggesting the failure of traditional symbols of rebirth, such as springtime, vegetation, and romantic love. Perhaps an important question for the poem as a whole is whether the ending is at all hopeful. The poem is important not only thematically but also artistically. The Wasteland employs a patchwork structure that situates fragments of poetry next to one another. Juxtaposition of fragments encourages readers to make connection between fragments, giving the reader a powerful role in interpreting the poem. The poem also juxtaposes fragments in alluding to previous literature, or intertextuality. The allusions encourage the reader to connect the poem to the previous literature, making the meaning even richer. Because of this technique, I recommend reading the poem once through, then reading the footnotes, and then reading the poem again. Many of the footnotes are Eliot's, which means that the poet intended the footnotes as part of the aesthetic experience. They are not all written by an outside editor assuming the reader needs help with the poem. To illustrate how the poem operates, I would like to read part of the first section aloud and discuss it chunk by chunk. Let's start with the title and epigraph. The connection between the title The Wasteland and the theme of the failure of rejuvenation should be pretty clear. A wasteland is a devastated landscape where nothing grows. It is a waste in the sense of not being usable. It's also wasted, as in laid waste or blasted, which has the sense of some entity being responsible for the devastation. In this case, perhaps it's human foolishness. The epigraph is in Latin and Greek. It was relatively common for young educated men to have been schooled in one or both languages, so Eliot could expect his readers to understand without translation. The Norton footnote translates the epigraph as, "For once I myself saw with my own eyes the Sibyl at Cumae hanging in a cage, and when the boy said to her, 'Sibyl, what do you want?' she replied, 'I want to die.'" As the footnote indicates, the Sibyl at Cumae acquired immortality without youth, so it's no wonder that she should want to die. This wish has potentially additional meaning in that Sibyls are prophets, so perhaps she knows not only the terror of her own fate, but also the future despair of the world. Again, this fragment seems consistent with the theme of devastation in the title. Okay, now let's look at the first chunk of poetry. Like the title of the poem, the title of the section, The Burial of the Dead, connects with the devastated land and the Sibyl who is old and can't die. The Norton footnote connects the section title with the Anglican burial service, but I don't know enough about Anglican rituals to know whether that is important to the meaning. 1. The Burial of the Dead. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dried tubers. The first 4 lines employ an objective tone, as if all would agree that April is the cruelest month. The objectivity is perhaps ironic in that spring doesn't generally seem cruel, so the question might be, why might one see spring as cruel? The 5th line introduces a first-person plural persona, us, and the idea that forgetfulness comes in winter. Why might this us need forgetfulness? It seems almost as if the us is under the snow, on or under the ground. The persona seems to shift in the next section to more of a clearly human voice. As the Norton footnote indicates, the voice belongs to Countess Marie Lariche, cousin to King Ludwig II of Bavaria. Summer surprised us coming over the Starnberger See with a shower of rain. We stopped in the colonnade and went on in sunlight into the Hofgarten, and drank coffee and talked for an hour. Bin gar keine Russen, stamm aus Litauen, echt Deutsch. And when we were children, staying at the Archduke's, my cousin's, he took me out on a sled and I was frightened. He said, "Marie, Marie, hold on tight," and down we went. In the mountains, there you feel free. I read much of the night and go south in the winter. This us includes a first-person I, the Countess, who visits a lake, a colonnade, and a place to get coffee. The Norton translates the German, I am not Russian at all. I come from Lithuania, a true German. There's no indication whether this is also the Countess's voice or something overheard while at the Hofgarten, or another fragment. The Countess's voice continues with a childhood memory. The inclusion of winter imagery connects back to the previous reference to winter, but otherwise the first 7 lines seem unconnected to these lines, which leaves it up to the reader to find a connection. Perspective shifts again in the second stanza. What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images, where the sun beats and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, and the dry stone no sound of water. Only there is shadow under this red rock. Come in under the shadow of this red rock, and I will show you something different from either your shadow at morning striding behind you, or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear in a handful of dust. The persona addresses his interlocutor as Son of Man, which suggests the persona is not human. The limited understanding of the human addressed suggests that the persona is wiser or more powerful than a human. Eliot's footnote indicates the persona's voice alludes to the Christian gods addressing the prophet Ezekiel, but whether this voice is also God's is unclear. Again, there are linked images of a dead land and prophets, but no explicit connection to the earlier material. The next section is indented and italicized. Frisch weht der Wind der Heimat zu, mein irisch Kind, wo weilest du? Eliot's footnote indicates that these are lines from Richard Wagner's opera Tristan and Isolde, and the Norton edition provides the translation. Fresh blows the wind to the homeland. My Irish child, where are you waiting? This quote is just dropped in the poem without transition or translation. Again, it is up to the reader to ascertain the connection to the rest. Perhaps a lost love, which would connect with the failure to regenerate in spring? I think I'll stop and let you take it from here. I hope this discussion provides a sense of how one might assemble the fragments of Eliot's poem to make meaning from it. The variety of seemingly unrelated pieces acts as a kind of constellation that results in an overall aesthetic experience. I will look forward to reading your interpretations of the various passages and their interrelationships.